The latest Specialized Diverge Generation 4
is out today. It's not a complete overhaul of the bike that dates back to 2014 when it was an all-road bike with 32mm tires, but there are a number of refinements all pointed towards more. We've got a more refined Future Shock now 3.0. We've got more tire clearance because of course we do. We've got slightly more storage and we've got a little more wheelbase. There's more progressive geometry with a longer top tube, slightly shorter stem. In this video, I'll dig into the new details, what the bike is like to ride. I've spent the last 2 days here in Slovenia at the end of a European trip testing this bike out. Talked to a gentleman named Peter Sagan about his initial thoughts on the Future Shock when it came out back in the day, how he approached it racing and winning Paris-Roubaix, some feedback he gave to Specialized, which they incorporate in here. Also show you how this can now be adjusted. I'll give you my take on how this bike rode for me, how it sits in the Specialized lineup. Yes, the Crux still continues on, the world's lightest production gravel bike from a major manufacturer. And yes, the STR, the suspended rider, the full suspension version of this continues on, but notably it's not included in this latest Generation 4. It still exists as the Generation 3 level bike. Let's dig into Generation 4, the whys, the hows, the whats, including some Specialized claims like 11 watts of energy savings due to this Future Shock 3.0. Let's take it from the top with the Future Shock 3.0. There are 3 different versions, 3.1, which is non-adjustable, 3.2 and 3, which are both adjustable in terms of being able to set one of 3 springs and add tokens. And then the top end 3.3, which is adjustable from locked out to all the way open and some clicks in between. Todd Carver, one of the OGs from Retool, which is now part of Specialized, now part of Body Geometry, did some studies and claims that this can save up to 11 watts of energy savings. Specialized measured this using accelerometers on the body. I've done tests like this in the past trying to tease out how much shock absorption can be done by tires by putting accelerometers different places on a bicycle. Didn't know people did this on the body too. That's what the Specialized team did at the wrists and elbows. Turns out I don't have accelerometers in my pocket to corroborate this or challenge this, but I can tell you that suspension does work, and it feels a lot nicer to have a little bit of suspension than no suspension when it's bumpy. At the start of the first ride yesterday, I inadvertently had this locked out, and I was thinking, man, this ride's kind of harsh. And then I realized, duh, this was locked out. So I opened it up and instantly felt a lot better. So adding suspension for comfort, not a new concept in bicycles. But the counter argument in gravel has always been, what about the extra weight? And is it really worth extra weight and complexity for a small amount of suspension? This is why, in part, Specialized has gone with the Future Shock, a very small piece of suspension up top as opposed to a more traditional suspension fork on the legs down below. Total weights for this bike built up, this is with the latest and greatest SRAM Force, 8.39 kilos. The top end bike, the Diverge Pro LTD, or Limited, that we saw raced at Unbound. I'll put my video to that down below. That bike weighs just a touch over 8 kilos. And then the aluminum bikes, there's a Diverge Alloy Comp and a Diverge Alloy Sport. Those are 10.6 and 10.74 kilos respectively. Notably, in that up to 11 watt savings claim, Specialized and the German Institute were looking not at vertical deflection and vertical force, but horizontal force that was absorbed by the system. Similarly, the DT Swiss fork that recently came out on Canyon bikes, and both parties are saying, you know, vertical affects comfort for sure, but if you're looking at the efficiency of the machine, it's the horizontal or, you know, forward force that you're looking at. That's also what we're doing with bigger, more supple tires, right? Is trying to reduce the amount of force the bumps are stopping you with or slowing you with, and being able to float over the top of these things as best we can. Another new bit on this 3.0 series is bumpers added top and bottom to prevent harsh bottoming out and topping out. On some of the early iterations of this, there's 20 millimeters of travel, which is not a whole lot, and you could get through that pretty quickly. And if the force was hard enough, bottom out, it would feel a little harsh and certainly sound a little harsh. So that has been, I don't want to say eliminated, but I certainly didn't notice any hard clanging in the 2 rides we did today. And I was riding as normal, like a bag of anvils over rocks. So that seems to be a marked improvement there. The FutureShock 3.0 series is adjustable with 2 different ways. You've got springs and you've got some tokens. How do we do the adjustment?
The 3.3 and the 3.2 both come with 3 springs. The middle one is standard in the bike, and then you can also go softer with the blue one, and with the yellow one you can also go a bit harder.
Yep.
So it's firmer. But also we have these tokens, which basically means that you can set the preload. So if you're on the bike and you're in the middle with the middle spring, for example, and you feel like your FutureShock is already going a little bit down when you're already on the bike, then you actually put a couple of these washers in, so you can go between 1 to 5. That already set the preload, which means that you still have the same travel, but it just sets the preload a little bit.
How complicated is it to make this switch?
It's actually quite simple.
Okay.
So we can do it if you like.
Sure, if you could show me.
So what you first do is you take the knob off, which is very simple. So we made some changes to the old one, because it now, you see all these little rounds here. That is where then kind of like the bolt secures in, so it's very simple.
Yep.
So we start with that. Then we take the stem off, and the good thing of the FutureShock is, normally if you take the stem off a bike, then your whole fork will actually drop to the floor.
Right, right.
With the FutureShock you don't have that problem. And we change to a 22 flat.
Yep.
So I have to make sure it's a flat one. Very simple, you put that on. And you basically take off the adjuster. So that's the first bit that I now take off. Then there's a little washer in here that normally you can take out with a little tool if you brought it. I did not, so we'll see.
Okay. Yeah, for the record, I pulled you away from your workstation and your tools. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
This is on me,
But
viewers.
it's out. Yes. Then you take your 22 again. And you basically do the same thing again.
Now, for the first time also with this 3.0 series, the hydraulics are serviceable.
Correct.
And for that, a rider would take the entire bike to a shop.
Yeah.
And the shop handles the
And it is serviceable, but like you can ride pretty long with it, so it's actually good.
What are the, sorry to interrupt one process with another, but what's the recommended service interval for?
It depends a lot on how much you ride, but
Sure.
it's almost, you don't really need to service it. So you can
Okay.
basically ride for years, which is a lot better than before, because it has all the hydraulics in and all of that.
Okay.
This is the black one, so that's the middle one, which is standard in it.
Yep.
So if we would, let's say we actually want to change that towards like the yellow one, which is the firm one.
Yep.
You put that in. Then also if you say, hey, I also want to also put some preloads, you basically just very simple, just put it on top of that piece.
I see.
And then we basically just return the whole process.
Yes.
So you can see it's very simple. You
Yep.
basically bring a pair of pliers, very helpful. But otherwise, 22, 4 mil and a 2 mil, you basically can do it. And you can also, if you just follow the steps,
Yep.
and if you buy the bike, you obviously get also like a manual with it. You can easily do this at home. It's not really a problem. My recommendation would be always first start with the washers. Or with the spacers, and not change the spring, because it already makes a very big difference. Because the spring is a way more dramatic change.
I see.
Then this one goes on again. Obviously this one on again.
Yep.
You can put the cap on again, and then you're basically done. So that's how simple it is.
Okay, thanks for the demonstration. Peter Sagan, you know this name, longtime Specialized athlete, incredible athlete. Popped in to ride with us today along with his former teammate Daniel Loss. I chatted with Peter about what he thought of the FutureShock initially and his initial thoughts on this latest iteration today. The FutureShock is now a well-known thing. It's been on Specialized bikes for years.
Yeah.
But can you think back to when Specialized first told you about the concept and what you thought? Did you think it was a good
I remember
idea?
because I was the first guy to deal with the Future Shock on Paris-Roubaix, right? And the first one what came out, it was only open, and after with the engineers and stuff, I was talking a lot like it's gonna be better for race, like if you can make it open and close.
Yes.
And after a year, the Specialized came with this Future Shock. It was a 2.0, and that was possibility to open and close. And after when I won Roubaix in 2018, I was already on the prototype of Future Shock 3.0.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
but after it's went for retailers in 2019, I think something like that.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Maybe you double check with the the guys. And after that, they like the engineers they work on it, you know, every year to improve, you know, and they put already in my prototype what I was racing in Paris-Roubaix, the hydraulic system inside. That means that you feel less when you hit pretty hard the bottom.
Yes.
And you feel it much less, and that's what they just make better for 3.0, what is already on the new Diverge, that you almost not feeling when you hit the bottom. I was riding the right day, and the first thing what I noticed, I never hit the bottom. Then before, you know, when you hit really hard, that you feel that is like, you know.
Yeah, it bottoms out, yeah.
Yeah.
And you feel like metal on metal contact
Yeah.
almost. Yeah.
But now I didn't feel it. Maybe it's also because the tires are, you know, bigger on the gravel bike. But another thing, what they improved, that you can adjust. Like when you're locking the system, like depends how many clicks you do, you can adjust if it's going to be softer or harder. And that's also something new what came with the Future Shock 3.0.
Whereas before it was basically just off or on.
Yeah, it was on or off.
Yeah. Before you used it at Roubaix, did you like the idea of having some suspension, or did that seem like, since so much of Roubaix is on pavement, that would be necessary weight? Like,
no, I was very happy that the Specialized came out with the Future Shock, because it was the game changer for me. You know, like we were still riding on the 28,
right.
the tires 28.
Yes.
And it was pretty, you know, pretty hard to ride Paris-Roubaix and to hold the bars and stuff. And after, if you are used to, maybe it's much better if you are training every day on the cobblestones. But when you are going, like, you know, the last moment you do Flanders, and after you stay 1 week in Belgium, and after you go for Paris-Roubaix, that I was like 2 days after a race, 3 days, shaking in my fingers. They were swollen, you know, that I was not able to even to teeth my brush my teeth with you know, with the toothbrush. Then that was the big change for me when Specialized came up with a Future Shock, that all these problems like never happen again, you know. I saw the people, they lose the skin from the hands,
sure, and
stuff. With the Future Shock, never happen again. Now we are talking, you know, the harder is faster, and then the riders are going, you know, to ride on the tarmac bike Paris-Roubaix. But the difference is that the Specialized improve also on the tarmac SL8, that the clearance for the tire is much bigger. They can use bigger tires, you know. that what in my age it wasn't like that. It wasn't that easy. But with Roubaix bike we could put you know, also the bigger tires. Then what else? I just talking about my experience with the Future Shock, what I had during all my years. Then I think what I was riding today on the new Diverge, that it was a very nice surprise for me how they improve, you know, how the shock is working.
Mm-hmm. Would you ever switch it off like the rides yesterday and today? I just left it open pretty much the whole time. It's because
no, me too.
It doesn't feel like it's. You don't feel like.
No, I keep it open because we were almost all the time inside the forest, you know, on the rocks. And the thing is, now I enjoy comfort, you know. Like
you and me both. Yeah.
Now for me, like I like to go fast, but maybe just in downhill, not in the climb. And for the downhill, it's better to keep it open.
Well, I even like it for uphill climbs when it's bumpy. Because
sure.
When you're in the saddle, it just feels like it's just a little more.
Yeah, you have more control.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you are off-road, definitely you have more comfort and more control if you have some suspension, you know.
Yeah, agreed.
Well,
thank you, sir. Easy as that. One more. This has a little more bottom bracket drop. It was already quite low at 80 mil. That was, you know, among the lowest out there. Now it's 85. Specialized folks like to use the phrase "in the bike." You're down in the bike. You're not on the bike. And there's something to be said for having a lower center of gravity. It does make you feel more planted. Can increase the likelihood of pedal strikes. Storage, the SWAT. This guy is quite functional. Specialized was keen to point out they were the first brand to bring internal down tube storage to gravel. And now with the aluminum version, they're the first brand to do that. Having two big bags in here make the space quite usable. I'm of mixed minds of internal storage on gravel bikes in general. Often, probably because I'm switching bikes constantly from test bike to test bike, I'll just throw on a saddlebag because that's just a lot easier to switch from one bike to the other. I think a lot of people use these kind of like an emergency tire in the back of your vehicle, just in the trunk, where you're probably not going to need it for most rides, but when you do, it's nice to have it there. Some people use it to like put a jacket in, similar. If you're using it often though, having a big usable space is a nice thing, and I think Specialized has done, if not the best, certainly up there as far as like the easiest to use, and that you can just put things in and take them out. If you've seen my other videos of other bikes, I'm often wrestling with the thing and the work stand rattling around, just trying to get it in and out. And you know, race situations aside, just day-to-day living, that can be frustrating. So just having big old space, big old opening, 2 thumbs up, Specialized, nice work. And then also the thing sits securely in place, which you wouldn't think would be such a hard thing, but there are some offenders out there, like the Harrow's first gravel bike. The whole cage operation just kind of rattles around, and some of them can leak as you know, you wash your bike and you take the cage off, or you take the door off and there's water inside. So details matter. Big storage is good, big door is good. Specialized has done this well. You're not gonna buy a bike for the storage though, right? You're gonna buy it for how it rides. I like how the bike rides. I liked the previous Gen 3 before the STR came out. I liked things like the geometry, being low, being planted, being slack enough that it was stable, but not so raked out that it was sleepy or floppy on the front end. Like the Gen 3, this Gen 4 has got the humble, hardworking, and ever so important carbon post. This is a claimed deflection of 18 mil. Quantification aside, subjectively, it just feels nice to have a little bit of cush in the post. Speaking of cush, there's a new high zoot saddle now out. This is the Specialized Power Evo. It's a slightly less dramatically angled shape. It's more like a triangle instead of a sculpted curve here, and it's thicker on the nose. It's got mirrors, so it's 3D printed, and it's crazy expensive. Quite comfortable. It's a little thick, I think, in the nose for my liking. I think I prefer like the traditional straight ahead power, but the plushness is quite nice. But important thing with saddles, get one that fits you in terms of a shape that's agreeable and a width that works for your anatomy. And then once you've got that dialed, like having a carbon post, I think is a notable, worthy upgrade if you don't have one already. And the more post you have, you know, a little bit more flex you can get. So regardless of bike, get a saddle that you love, and a carbon post, yes, can make a difference in terms of comfort. The other end, Roval Terra, it's got 12 degrees of flare and a super shallow drop, which I quite like, so there's not a big change when you're going from the tops down to the drops. I like the shape. I wish there was like a little bit more width to it as I'm getting older and more delicate. I appreciate having a wider perch, like not so wide that you want to take your thumbs off, but just, you know, enough to disperse the pressure a little bit. So this is not an uncomfortable bar by any means, but my new standard for bars is the Zip Explorer bar, which, especially when paired with the new levers, is just this nice, big, wide, comfortable perch. So this is not quite there, but it's a nice bar. And then to finish back where we started, comfort-wise, Future Shock. You know, having just 20 mil can make a noticeable difference. Like I said, I started with the thing locked out unwittingly and thought it was a harsh ride, and with the flip of a switch, felt instantly more comfortable. It's not a massive thing, but it is absolutely a noticeable thing. The last gravel suspension bike I rode was the latest Canyon Grail with the DT Swiss fork. That had, still has, 40 mil of travel, noticeably more plush, as you'd expect, and a bit heavier. The aesthetics on that fork, I think, are the best looking gravel suspension fork out there, but it's still a different vibe than what looks like a more traditional gravel bike. Is that a good thing, bad thing? You make the call on your own aesthetics. A probably closer comparison is the Redshift stem. If you're not familiar with that, it is a stem you can put on any bike, unlike this, which requires, you know, a whole separate frame that is designed for the Future Shock. Redshift stem you can put on any fork, and the thing pivots. I have some friends that love this thing because they can put it on any bike. It adds some comfort, doesn't add a lot of cost, doesn't add a lot of weight. My beef with the Redshift design is that while it goes down, it also goes down at an angle, so I feel like I'm getting a flat tire. You know, it's not a huge amount of drop, but it's just the angle of the dangle, the angle of the squish just feels weird to me. So for this, it travels in a vertical direction, so the angle of your wrists don't change. It doesn't feel like your levers are slipping down. So small thing, but a noticeable thing, and on that score, I appreciate this style. As I said, the downside to this is that you gotta buy the whole kit and caboodle if you want to have the Future Shock. It's not something like the Redshift stem you can just put on any bike. All the bikes are 1x builds, but the frame is still 2x compatible, even cable compatible should you choose to go that route. Should you choose to go the bike packing route. You can put 6 water bottles on here. You can put racks, rear and front. You can mount locks underneath. You can put whatever you want on this thing if bike packing is your thing. Like virtually all new bikes out there these days, with the exception of the Giant Revolt, yes, it is UDH compatible. SRAM is pushing ahead with that, forcing Shimano and other component makers to adjust. So that's what's up with the new Specialized Generation 4. Let me know what questions you have. I'll do my best to answer in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And whether you like your bike with a bit of suspension or no suspension at all, aside from the tires, just get out there and enjoy the ride.